Your brand new iPhone deserves the best protection, and the iLune 3-pack screen protector plus 3-pack camera lens protector has you covered. Don't take risks with your iPhone. Click the link in the video description to shop now on Amazon.
Welcome back to Modi Updates, where we're always on top of what's happening in India and around the world. Today, we have a very important story that needs to be told. The recent war between Pakistan and India has left India in damage control mode. To deflect attention from their humbling defeat, the Indian government is launching a global disinformation campaign, trying to sway public opinion against Pakistan and at the same time painting India as a land of unity and inclusivity. But let's take a closer look at what's really going on inside India. The recent Pahalgam terror attack was not an isolated incident. In fact, it's just one example of the rising tide of hate crimes and targeted violence against Muslims and Kashmiris in India. According to reports by organizations like the Center for Study of Society and Secularism and the Association for Protection of Civil Rights, there have been 184 reported hate crimes across India between April 22nd and May 8th, with many more incidents going unreported. But what's even more disturbing is that these hate crimes are not just limited to random incidents. They're often linked to specific events, like the Pahalgam attack, which has been used as a pretext to justify violence against Muslims and Kashmiris. In fact, a report by the APCR found that 106 of these reported incidents were directly triggered by the Pahalgam attack. Now, let's talk about some of the examples of hate crimes that have been reported. There was a Muslim man who was killed in Agra by members of the Kshatriya Gau Raksha Dal in retaliation for the Pahalgam attack. In another incident, a Muslim boy was forced to urinate on a Pakistani flag in Aligarh, Uttar Pradesh. Hindu mobs were also reported to have assaulted Muslim women, children, and men in Santacruz, Maharashtra, forcing one woman to say Jai Shri Ram and threatening her with dragging her to Pakistan. But what's even more worrying is that these hate crimes are not just random incidents. They're often linked to the growing presence of right-wing Hindutva organizations in India. These groups have been using violence and intimidation to silence their opponents and assert their dominance over minorities. And it's not just Muslims who are being targeted. Other minority communities, like Kashmiris and Christians, are also facing persecution and violence. Now, let's talk about the role of the Indian government in all this. The Modi administration has been accused of downplaying these incidents and trying to mislead international opinion about India's human rights record. But it's clear that they're not telling the whole truth. For years, India has been engaged in a brutal and prolonged occupation of Kashmir, which has resulted in thousands of deaths, disappearances, and human rights abuses. The Indian government has been accused of employing disinformation and deceptions as part of its foreign policy strategy since India's birth in 1947. They've annexed nearly half of the disputed territory of Jammu and Kashmir and refused to hold a UN-sponsored plebiscite to determine the fate of the region. And it's not just Kashmir that's being targeted. Other minority communities, like Muslims and Christians, are also facing persecution and violence. So what can we learn from all this? We need to stop swallowing the Modi government's propaganda about India's supposed togetherness and inclusivity. We need to see through their disinformation campaign and recognize the reality of what's happening on the ground in India. We need to stand with the people of Kashmir and other minority communities who are fighting for their rights and freedoms. In conclusion, it's clear that the Modi government is not interested in promoting genuine inclusion and amity in India. Instead, they're using violence, intimidation, and disinformation to silence their opponents and assert their dominance over minorities. We need to be vigilant and critical of this government's actions and policies. We need to stand with those who are fighting for justice and human rights in India. And we need to make sure that the world sees the truth about what's happening on the ground in India. That's all for today's episode of Modi Updates. Thanks for watching, and we'll be back with more updates soon.